Welcome to Share Talk, the only podcast where investors come first.
Welcome to Share Talk. Today we have Matthew Idiens, who's the CEO of Rose Petroleum Plc, ticker ROSE, listed on AIM. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you very much.
So you've had a number of RNSs out last couple of weeks, resulting in a share consolidation, partnering agreement around Paradox and your potential lithium interests there. And today we've had an RNS out about a placing to raise 3 million. So Where do you want to start?
Well, so we are now fully funded to proceed with our 3D seismic shoot in the Paradox Basin, which is a major step for us. Getting that permit to proceed with that has taken a very long time and obviously hasn't helped with our share price. We've made numerous what we believe to be positive announcements, but the underlying issue has been obviously that we needed to fund the seismic, and so no matter how much positivity we put out into the market, the shares unfortunately have been held back as a result of that, which I suppose is understandable, but not very helpful for us existing shareholders.
When do you expect to complete the seismic?
So the shoot, we are well underway in terms of the process. We announced that we obviously started the surveying part of it. So in order to put the trucks out in the field, the vibration trucks out in the field, you have to lay out flags to identify the course that they need to travel. That is sort of 80% through, nearly finished. The drill rigs have been for the shot holes, so they will be out at the weekend, and the whole process will be recording, etc., will be done by year end, so over the next couple of months.
Okay, what can we expect to see in terms of news flow around that?
So obviously we'll be keeping the market up to date in terms of operations, so everyone is clear on what we're up to, including recording, processing, interpretation. The processing should be done in January, and I imagine the interpretation will commence in January and be finished in February. And the key to that really is that it identifies our drill targets. The Paradox Basin is a sort of deep clastic basin, so it's got basically salt dividers in between dolomite sandstone structures where the hydrocarbons are generated. It's nice and deep, so there's lots of overpressure, so the IP rates on the wells are very high, because of the structure of the basin, we look for the fractures, the natural fractures that are there. The basin isn't fracked, so you will drill down, go horizontal until you hit the fracture swarms, which you would have identified with the 3D seismic, and then you get these fantastic IP rates, and the wells are very successful. I mean, Fidelity drilled the well 12-1 in 2012, which IP did about 1,500 barrels a day and sat there for I think about 9 months without any drop off, and was held back in order not to flow too quickly. So but now they believe that was probably the top 3 wells in the US that year. So this basin can provide some fantastic production.
Yes, I mean, let's just wind back to Tuesday's announcement quickly then, and covering that Paradox acreage. You made an announcement about looking at a potential extraction of lithium from the sailor brines there. Do you want to just give us a bit more information around that?
Yeah, I mean, it's as we said, it is early stage in respect to that, but it's obviously, as I just mentioned, it's a salt basin. And obviously you get the brines attached with that, and lithium grades in the basin have been up to sort of 1700 ppm. So whether we go down a junction of the associated water with the production and processing that, or if there is a shallower brine formation or salar brine formation that we could tap into as a separate program. The point of the 3D is that we're doing the 3D to shoot obviously to understand the oil and gas, but there would be able to use it again. Obviously, as we've shot it already, there's no extra cost to identify those potential structures as well in formations that we know are water bearing. So it's sort of just an added advantage. I mean, it could be a possible revenue stream if in association with the hydrocarbons, and if it's the economics work and the grade's high enough, then it could be an independent thing. But I mean, what I don't want to take on the oil and gas, I mean, that really is the money maker here. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and I mean, just going back to, you say you're fully funded for the seismic. Mm-hmm. What happens after that?
So the key is the data that provides. It takes us into a whole different level in terms of financeability. As we mentioned in our announcement today, historic conversations we've had with people, we're fairly confident that given that data, industry partners will be interested in partnering with us, and we will just have to see at that stage, which is the best way forward, whether it's a project level investment or if the value of our share price has gone to a level where we believe we should be, then we'll assess which is the cheapest way forward, whether it's a project level or investment at company level, and we'll only make that assessment at the time. But I do believe we will have genuine options at that time because of the data that it creates and the information that is there.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've sort of touched on it already, but what do you say to shareholders in respect of the raising at 4p, which is kind of effectively, over the last few weeks, effectively almost like 60% discount from where your share price was?
Yeah, I mean,
3 weeks ago.
It's disappointing. The share price, there's no question about that. But we can't, we don't, as a board, we don't control the share price. The market does. And as I mentioned, there's, the regulations require you to make it very clear about your funding requirements, and there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, it would be dishonest not to have it any other way. So when the market knows that you need money, there's always going to be pressure on your share price. And with exploration companies, you're not a producer, you're not generating money. Investors, what I would hope, know the risks around that, and that exploration companies, until they find something, are going to need money by definition. Yeah. They are high risk, high reward, hopefully, and that is what we are. So I am just really pleased that this £3 million was a difficult raise. Raising that money at this level of market cap is an achievement in this market, and our brokers TPI did an excellent job, and we have to look forward now to creating something that could be really big, and without this money we'd be nothing. So yeah. As the old sort of adage goes, it's far better to have a smaller part of something that's going to be much bigger than a bigger part of something that's not going to be anything.
And I mean, are you taking any steps to reduce your ongoing costs?
Yeah, we have done. I mean, we really have done. We've reduced our burn rate right down from where it was when we were doing the Mancos project. We've made huge leaps and bounds on that basis. I mean, not a single person in our group is on the salary they were before. They're a lot lower. Yeah,
I mean, are there any plans for management to sort of partake in sort of the buying of shares in the company at any point soon?
That's a sort of difficult question to ask, but we will announce it if we do.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to add today then, just to give people an idea? You've already spoke about the seismic. We haven't heard much recently about operations around Cuba and the gypsum stuff there.
Yeah, I mean that those bases, and we're just awaiting a response from the Cuban authorities, and that is a time-consuming process. So when we hear, we will update the market, but we're just waiting to hear on Cuba. In terms of the SDA Mill, obviously we've signed the SPA with. It's always a bit confusing when you have SDA and SPA, but the stock purchase agreement, the SPA, is signed with Magellan, and they've paid us 100,000 already of the 1.5 million total consideration. We should be getting 850,000 in the end of October, probably realistically first week of November, but plan is at the moment end of October. And they're retaining 50,000 in escrow in case there's anything that we haven't paid, which we believe we will do. Should have a clear book when we hand it over, but just in case. And then we get $500,000 in their stock, and they're an OTC traded company on US exchange, which is restricted for the first 6 months, and then we have the potential to see if we can raise some money out of it. But that 850 will be just an addition. I wanted to make sure that we were genuinely fully funded and was no further funding risk, which is why we went for the amount we did, and so that there's no further overhang during this period when we should really be creating significant value. I mean, the 3D is really key to the development of this basin. I mean, I'm probably waffling on a bit now, but our team that we have now, with the likes of Dave and Todd on board, who both worked at Fidelity, which is now Kirkwood Resources. Dave was brought in. He is a fracture specialist, and he was brought in by Fidelity because they weren't having the success they wanted. He completely transformed their program, having reviewed all the data, changed the whole process, did a 9-well program for them, 8 of which were hugely successful. I mean, that's a massive success rate. And he took them from roughly, well, the team did, but he was responsible for the locations, etc., and drilling and steering the wells in the horizontal. Took them from sort of 100 barrels a day to over 3,000 barrels a day in about sort of 18 months. I mean, if we can replicate that sort of results, I mean,
or anywhere near.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and Ryder Scott has given us this, prospect of recoverable resources, a vast number, over 1 billion barrels of oil and over 2 trillion cubic feet of gas, for our acreage. I mean, even if we come up with a tiny portion of that, we're still way ahead of where we are now. And we know there's hydrocarbons there because there's a well offsetting us, which has produced oil. So we know the hydrocarbons are there. We just need to identify where the fractures, drill into them, and then we're off. And we will obviously select the very best targets from the 3D that we have and give us the best chance of success. And I'm really looking forward to the future now. I mean, it's been very tough while we've had this, the permitting process ongoing, etc., and seeing our share price just keep on dipping and dipping and dipping, with everything you try is quite demoralizing. But now, the future genuinely looks really bright, and we're funded and we can produce this data that we need that will make us basically be able to really exploit the basin properly.
And just on the assumption that you get this money from Magellan, you obviously, it's obviously at a late stage now. Have you already got plans in place for what you're going to use that for? Is it just going to contribute towards ongoing costs?
We have a few ideas of things that we would like to do with it, but nothing that I can discuss openly at this moment.
Okay. I mean, my only question, I guess, is would it be to accelerate existing projects or potentially look at new?
I would like to leave our options open. Obviously, the Paradox is the priority at the moment, but if something should come along that we think is, as prospective, if not more, which is going to be difficult, then I wouldn't want to close that window. But certainly the Paradox is the priority.
Yeah, I mean, if memory serves me correct, going back quite a bit now, you do have interest in a uranium prospect. Am I right?
Yeah, we do. I mean, that's all on care and maintenance. So the uranium assets basically are all in Arizona, and they were on the north and south rim of the Grand Canyon, outside the national park. So outside the protected area. And then the previous administration brought in a moratorium on operations there and extended basically 1 million square miles, or 1 million acres, I think it was actually, sorry. And that really just completely ceased our operations. Under the Trump administration, and we've kept those live because we feel that will be turned around. And under the Trump administration, that they're very pro-nuclear, very sensibly, and I think that there's a high chance of those licenses coming back to life again, in which case we will do something with them.
So it's much more of a longer term wait and see approach with that one.
Yeah, it's a low cost care and maintenance, but it's just sitting there, and if the administration makes the right decision and brings these back in, then that would be something that the 850 would be used towards developing those.
Okay, Matthew. Well, it's been really good speaking to you today. You've obviously covered a lot of bases, and I wish you and all the shareholders all the best in the future. Thank you very much. So that was Matthew Idiens, who's the CEO for Rose Petroleum Plc, which is the ticker ROSE on AIM. Thank you, Matthew. Thanks very much.
Thank you for listening. Remember to visit our website for more news and other podcasts at www.share-talk.com.